Alright, so in this video, we're going to practice law of sines and law of cosines. So state whether the law of sines or law of cosines is the best choice and substitute into the formula. Now on this front page, we're not solving anything, we're just deciding which law would be the most useful. So anytime you're using law of sines, remember the goal of law of sines is you have two angles, two sides, because it's a proportion, so two angles and two sides. When you have the law of cosines is one angle and three sides because it's an actual equation. So all you have to do is actually look at the problem to set it up. So looking at this picture, I see two angles and two sides, which lets me know that the law of sines is how I want to set this problem up. To set it up, it's angle to opposite side, so sine of x over 12 equals sine of 112 over 25. No solving necessary. Number two, right offhand, I should be able to tell the difference between 1 and 2. Notice in number 2 that I only have one angle. Well, one angle and three sides, that ends up being the law of cosines. The way that you set up law of cosines is you look for the angle and the side opposite. So this becomes our squared value. So x squared, these become a and b, equals 16 squared plus 15 squared minus 2 times 16 times 15 times cosine of the angle, which is 87. Remember, no solving necessary, just set up. Number 3, I should see one angle and three sides. So again, this is a law of cosines. Now this is going to look a little bit different. Across from our angle right here is 30, which means that is now our c value. So we get 30 squared equals, and then we're just going to make these arbitrary a and b, equals 37 squared plus 55 squared minus 2 times 37 times 55 times cosine of x, because I don't have an angle. Number 4, again, I see two angles and two sides, so that is a law of sines. So across from the x, I deal with the angle of 100, so this is the sine of 100 over x. 56 goes to 42. Sine of 42 over 56. Again, no solving necessary, just set up. Number 5, I see again two angles and two sides, so that is the law of sines. From here, I'm going to go ahead and work backwards. So 20 corresponds to angle 40. So sine of 40 over 20. Now in this problem, x corresponds to nothing, but you do know how to solve this problem. What you're going to do is you're going to add 108 and 40 together and subtract from 180. So 180 minus 148 is 32, which makes this angle 32. We don't actually need 108 from here on, so now we have the sine of 32 over x. Remember, anytime you're missing the angle, you can calculate it. The angles in a triangle will add to 180. Number 6, I see one angle and three sides. So that again, law of cosines. Across the angle is the x, so this becomes x squared equals, again, a and b don't really make a difference. I could make 31a or b, does not matter. So this equals 22 squared plus 31 squared minus 2 times 22 times 31 times cosine of 135. Now, on a problem like this one, you can do this problem one of two ways. You can do law of sines or law of cosines because you have two angles and three sides. So for this problem, both of these are potential options. You can use either. So to do law of sines, I have to use the 32 and the 40. So law of sines would be sine of x over 32 equals sine of 50 over 40. Or if we're using the law of cosines, I would be ignoring this 50. Now it's a law of cosines problem. So this value here, this is c, arbitrary, I'm going to make those a and b. 32 squared equals 52 squared. Plus 40 squared minus 2 times 52 times 40 times cosine of x. Sorry, I don't know what is up with my handwriting today. It's a little messy. All right, for the last one, we need to draw a picture. So triangle ABC. Little a is across from big A, so this side is 17. Little c is 34. Big B is 94. We're trying to find the length of little b. So I see 3 sides and 1 angle, so that is the law of cosines. So across my angle is x, so x squared equals 34 squared plus 17 squared minus 2 times 34 times 17 times cosine of 94. So that is the law of cosines. All right, let's hop to the back. Now on the back, we're actually going to be solving for a side or for an angle, depending on what trig function we're using here. So in this one, it says find AC, which means I'm going to go to AC and I'm going to put X there. So now I should just analyze my problem. I see 2 angles and 2 sides, law of sines. So 15 corresponds to 92, so sine of 92 over 15. And X corresponds to 28, sine of 28 over X. At this point, what we're going to do to solve is cross multiply. So when I cross multiply here, I'm going to do X times sine of 92. So this is X times sine of 92. Then I do 15 times sine of 28 times 15 sine of 28. Now, in this problem here, our goal is to solve for our variable of X. So in order to solve for X, I need to divide both sides by sine of 92. Remember, the trig function sticks with the 92. I can't just do 92. So what's left here, if I cover this up, is 15 sine of 28 divided by sine of 92. It's very, very important that you take a second and make sure that you are closing that parenthesis. If you don't close that parenthesis, then it's not going to work correctly. You want to make sure that you close the parenthesis. Let me grab something to stick underneath here. There we go. All right. So I'm going to type it in exactly how I see it. 15 times sine of 28, close parenthesis, divided by sine of 92. Gives me an answer of 7.04. Rounding to the nearest tenth, it would just be 7. All right, let's do law of sines again. So number 10 is also a law of sines question. We're trying to solve for BC. So in this problem, X is across from 59. So this is the sine of 59 over X. 15 is across from 10. So sine of 15 over 10. Again, cross multiplying. X times sine of 15 equals 10 times sine of 59. Again, in this problem, we're solving for X. So to isolate X, I must divide both sides by the sine of 15. Things to remember, the sine of 15 is stuck together, so these end up canceling. And now I can type in my calculator. 10 sine of 59, being sure to close that parenthesis. If you don't close that parenthesis, it won't work. I'm going to get a totally different answer there. Divided by sine of 15. Rounding to the nearest tenth, I get 33.1. All right, next problem, find AB. So analyzing my choices here, I see 1 angle and 3 sides. So that is the law of cosines. So x squared. Doesn't matter which one you make A or B, so 27 squared plus 19 squared minus 2 times 27 times 19 times cosine of the angle, and this angle is 80. Now, before I pick up my calculator, remember that I want to put these in its own parenthesis set, because whenever I'm solving problems like this, if you don't put the parentheses, there leaves more room for calculator errors, which we don't want. So let's go ahead and type everything in. The way I'm going to type it is exactly how I see it. So parenthesis 27 squared plus 19 squared, close parenthesis, minus, open a new set, 2 times 27 times 19 times cosine of 80, close the cosine, close the parenthesis, that's in pink, and I get 911.863. Now again, that's not our final answer. We've talked about this a lot in class. You do have to square root both sides. So what you're going to do is press second x squared, second negative sign to pull up square root my answer. Press enter, and x is 30.2 when rounded to the nearest tenth. All right, let's try the next one. Find AB. AB is where x goes, so across the 93 is our C value. So x squared equals, I'm going to make 13 the A value, 20 the B value. So 13 squared plus 20 squared minus 2 times 13 times 20 times cosine of 93. Again, I want to group my first and my second. So as I group those, parenthesis 13 squared plus 20 squared minus parenthesis 2 times 13 times 20 times cosine of 93. Close the trig function and close the parenthesis you opened. We get x squared to be 596.2. Remember, I need to square root. Second x squared, second negative sign means square root my previous answer. So I get 24.4 as my x value. My pen is dying. So 24.4. All right, last one, we're solving for an angle. So solve for angle B, so that is our theta. Looking at this problem, we should easily see that we have two angles and two sides, so law of sines is the correct method. So across this 21 is theta, so sine of theta, or x, you can use any variable, over 21. 32 corresponds to 28, so sine of 28 over 32. Now we cross multiply. So 32 times sine of theta is just 32 sine of theta equals 21 times sine of 28. Again, our goal in these problems is to solve for our theta, but we can't isolate theta yet. So the first thing I need to do is get rid of the 32. So I'm going to divide both sides by 32, causing this to cancel. And I'm left with the sine of theta equals 21 times sine of 28 over 32. Now to get rid of the trig function, remember I'm solving for theta, so I have to use my -1. So on both sides, I'm going to multiply by sine to the -1, causing that to cancel. And now in my calculator, I'm going to have sine to the -1 of all of this fraction. So it's actually a lot of stuff that you're typing in your calculator. So to type this in the right way, it's very easy to type it in wrong. Sorry, let's see, maybe I can zoom out just a little. Move it, nope, okay. Maybe I'll move it over here. Okay, that works, we'll just do it that way. So the way you wanna type this in, second sine, then I'm gonna type the numerator, 21 sine of 28. Remember, I have to close this parenthesis because I wanna make sure that when I'm dividing, that I'm dividing everything by the 32. Close the sine to the -1 parenthesis, press enter, and you get 17.9. So theta is 17.9. These are the hardest ones to do, I think, because you have to use the -1 with sine, and it can get a little tricky. All right, let's try our final problem. Solve for C. So C is our theta value. So across 11 is theta, so this is sine of theta over 11 equals 19 with 98, so sine of 98 over 19. To solve, I'll cross multiply. So 19 sine of theta equals 11 sine of 98. Again, our goal is to solve for theta, so we must isolate theta. I can't just jump to using my -1, so I have to divide first. Divide both sides by 19. So I get sine of theta equals 11 sine of 98 over 19. Now to isolate theta, remember we use -1, so this is sine to the -1 on both sides. These will cancel. And in my parentheses, I'm going to have the whole fraction of 11 sine of 98 over 19. And we're doing that to the -1. So second sine, 11 sine of 98, remembering to close that top parenthesis. If you don't, it does not work the same way. Rounding to the nearest tenth would give me an answer of 35 even. Things to remember while you're doing these problems, make sure that the mode in your calculator is degree mode. Anytime you're doing trig, I keep pressing the wrong button, so down. Anytime you're doing trig, it has to be in degree mode. Graphing is when we use radian, so just be careful.